Hi, everyone. I'm Shane McMurray, CEO and founder of The Wedding Report. Thanks for joining us on this podcast video series focused on wedding venues, caterers, bar service, and rental companies. Today, I'm with Margaret, and she is in Risingsun, Ohio, about 25 minutes from Bowling Green. And so, Margaret, thanks for joining us on the show. And so, tell me about yourself and the location.
I'm happy to be here, Shane. Thanks for having me. My name's Margaret. My husband, Thomas, and I run Bloom & Bower. We purchased an existing venue at the beginning of 2021, started the purchase at the end of 2020. It was formerly 8-leaf clover, and our property is a now 6-acre country estate that has an on-site bed and breakfast. We allow our couples to stay overnight on their wedding night, often the night before as well, if they do a rehearsal. And then we have a mixed indoor-outdoor space. So a big ceremony lawn with a gazebo for wedding ceremonies, and then it's actually a 3-bay car garage that has long since been converted into our reception barn.
Nice.
And so it's got a big barn space and then an attached covered awning. So
is it more like a barn venue or just like an estate venue? How would you describe it?
More of an estate. The property is surrounded by about 200 acres of farm that is still owned by the great granddaughter of the woman the family who built our main home. We live on site as well.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a garden venue. It can fit into kind of a barn aesthetic, but it is not a barn. So,
so it's more garden type of estate.
Yeah.
Cool. And how many guests can you guys accommodate at the location?
About 200 is our max. We can probably go a little bit higher than that, but we want to make sure that, Ohio weather can be temperamental at best. And so we want to make sure we have solutions for all of our clients so that weather isn't going to impact their wedding day. So in case of rain, we have tents to cover the ceremony lawn, and then all of the reception space is covered so that everybody's eating under cover in case there's a storm during dinner.
Nice. Gotcha. I was going to ask you about rentals. Do you guys provide a lot of the rentals, or is there stuff around the area?
We actually leaned into providing as much as possible for our clients to I have a background in event management as well. I served 2 nonprofits in Tucson for quite a long time and have helped run lots of fundraisers.
Nice.
And, most of our clients are not also event planners. And so it can be very daunting to interface with all of the vendors and handle rentals. So we provide tables, chairs, linens, tents in case of rain. We provide day of coordination for all of our weddings. And then we provide access to a huge supply of decor, which hopefully helps couples not spend a ton of money on stuff that they're going to use just once.
Yeah.
We want them putting their money into keeping their guests happy. So being able to free up as many dollars to put toward catering and a good bar. So
nice. A good bar is always good, right?
Yep.
So tell me, what's like the one thing that gets you super excited about the work that you do?
I got to tell you, it is a hectic job, certainly, if you've,
Yes.
worked weddings. But I certainly love, having been in event management before, I really love the aspect of watching an event come together. There's always this feeling of like, oh, we're not going to get it done. Okay. Oh, it's getting done. It's done. It's perfect. We love it. And that cycle is really enjoyable. But I think most important and most fulfilling is getting to be kind of this backdrop for so many different couples' biggest day of their life up to this point. And so, we get to experience a lot of really happy families and a lot of really happy couples and be witness to really special moments happening. And that sounds cheesy, but it is.
Oh, it's great.
What keeps me heart focused in the job. So
no, that's awesome. That's the whole point, right? It's about, families and people coming together and building and starting a new life together. And you know, love. It's about love, really, at the end of the
Yep.
day. And yeah, we put all this stuff around it, right?
And the way we think about it is that, you know, any good event, right, becomes this really beautiful backdrop for lovely things to happen.
Yeah.
And so our goal as a venue is for things to run seamlessly enough that we become almost invisible and the venue just becomes this beautiful backdrop where people can enjoy themselves.
Yeah, that's nice. That's the way it should be, right? That's the way it should be.
That's the goal.
Yeah. We were talking about weather earlier. What kind of like like this time of year is probably pretty challenging for weather there in Ohio.
It's improving. So we do not run weddings in the winter. We wait until about a week after the last frost of the year. So that gives us time to get all of our annual plantings in the ground. So for example, between May 7th and May 14th this year, we put over 700 plants in the ground. So we've got about 4 of our 6 acres are heavily landscaped. And so that's a lot of work that we have to get done in a very small amount of time.
Gotcha.
And then we wrap up usually around the first weekend of November.
Okay.
We always say, you know, I mean, granted, we are only 2 years into it, but both years we said, oh, we're going to cut it off at Halloween, no more. And we are now booked into the second week of November for 23. So.
Is it challenging during that time? Because I mean, I know the weather changes quite a bit. Like, you were in Tucson, the weather's quite different in Tucson, right? Like it's really 4 months that are cool here. The other 8 months are pretty warm. Yeah. Yep. So there, I know it's more like, it's like 6 months, right? That can get kind of cold, right?
Yep. And so we make sure, I mean, it is a mixed indoor and outdoor venue. And so we make sure that our guests and our clients know what to expect. But then we make sure if it's really warm, we make sure to provide lots and lots of non-alcoholic beverages to supplement the alcoholic ones. And we keep fans going and provide lots of shaded spaces. If it's cold, we have propane heaters that we can bring out. But fortunately, we haven't had to do that too much. So we've been lucky. And then rain is really the big factor for us to prepare for. So
I would imagine, especially in the summertime, right? Showers just pop up. Yep.
Springtime. It's, and we have big tents, but that requires additional staffing. So the first thing I'm doing almost every morning is looking at the forecast and making appropriate staffing adjustments for the weekend upcoming.
Makes total sense. Do you guys, now how many weddings do you guys do in a week? Do you guys do 1 or 2, or do you guys do like?
Usually just 1 or 2. We do have some triple headers where we'll do a wedding Friday, a wedding Saturday, and a wedding Sunday. Okay. We don't typically like doing that just because it makes it very hectic on us. Sure. Because the couples do stay overnight on the property. We have to turn that building over. Yep. And it's providing a getting ready space for the following couple, for that next day. And so 2 weddings is really solid. We have done more than that.
Yeah, I gotta imagine. Are you seeing anything different, like people asking for different times of the week, or do you guys only do Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
We have, they're usually smaller events, small mini elopements or mini weddings, micro weddings. Yeah. Which logistically for us are really easy to do. And so it's, we will happily take them if they come our way. So.
Gotcha. Excellent. So what's the process for couples when they book with you? What does that look like? They call you up, they email you. What does that look like?
They typically email us through our website or Wedding Wire or The Knot or Zola or any of the other, we're trying to keep all of the platforms covered.
Other platforms,
And then they come out for a tour, and usually they're meeting with me, sometimes with Tom. And then we tell our couples to decide on kind of where we base our pricing on their head count. So tell them to decide on their head count, and we set up their contract. And then mostly couples are booking a year to 18 months in advance.
Oh.
And so once they're booked and, reserved on our calendar, we don't hear too much from them until the year of the wedding. So in January of this year, for example, we start scheduling what we call planning and decor consultations with each and every one of our clients. And it's a 2 to 3 hour meeting where we are digging into logistics and creating a day of timeline with the couple and making a plan for decor for all of the spaces on the property that need to be decorated, because we provide staffing to help with that. And our main goal is to take all of the pieces of information from the other vendors that our clients have hired and make sure it integrates seamlessly. And so we will create that timeline and then actually share it back with the vendors, with the DJ and photographer, to make sure that they don't have any changes or feedback.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. So you guys do all that with them, right? Like when you guys put it all together, like here's the timeline, here's everything we're going to do. What if they have a planner? Do they work with you guys?
Yep, we do. And many of our couples, we've only had 1 or 2 planners come through. Okay. And in that case, we kind of take a step back. I have no interest in stepping on a planner's toes.
Yeah, here's the space, go for it.
But we do provide staffing just to make sure that there are as many hands on deck as possible.
That's great.
To help with decorating, and then, during the event, keeping on top of trash and bathrooms clean, so on and so forth. So
do you guys recommend, do you recommend like 18 months, 1 year advance booking? Do you recommend longer than that? What's the max?
Well, I think ideally, couples should book, 18 months out seems realistic.
Seems realistic, yeah. Especially today, right?
Yep. But I think what we're seeing, we have bookings going as far out as 2024. Wow. But most of our bookings are a little bit more between 12 and 18 months. And, we do get some same year bookings. There are the couples that get engaged over the holidays and want to get married that summer. And we are usually, fitting them into open Sundays at that point. But it does happen. So
yeah, you got your date, but that may not work. So we can fit you in here. Yeah, for sure. Is there any specific advice that you would give couples today for planning their wedding, looking for a venue?
Well, I think before they dig too far into planning, often families are contributing financially to the wedding. Often couples are covering it themselves, but whoever is, financially invested in the wedding, a whole lot of conversations should happen at the beginning to identify what is most important to them. Yeah. Is it a lovely venue? Is it a really fancy photographer? Does the food have to be impeccable, or is a more casual affair going to be okay? And once you identify what's important to everybody, not, bride, groom, and their families, if they're pitching in financially, find out what matters and then drive decision-making from that. It can result in a whole lot of hurt feelings if those conversations don't happen early on. And so it seems to avoid a whole lot of strife.
That's great advice.
When they can.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say you're seeing couples ask for today that maybe they weren't asking for a few years ago?
Well, because we're new owners, we have, kind of a different framework. So all of our
maybe let me rephrase it, because since you're new owners, when you first started, what were you guys seeing couples asking for then, right, when you first started? And then today, what's different?
So when we purchased the venue, indoor weddings were not, for above 10 people, were not legally permitted due to COVID restrictions.
Okay.
And all of that opened up very quickly after we got here, and we knew it was going to. But I think, certainly last year, the big priority was making sure that we were operating safely and legally to make sure that, that these weddings that were happening were not going to turn into super spreader events. And to my knowledge, we haven't had any.
Awesome.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm seeing now is that our clients just kind of want us to make sure that those considerations are taken care of, and then they want to put it out of their head. So, with regard to COVID, I think that's what we're seeing is, I think some concern, but less wanting to design their wedding around COVID safety.
Gotcha. Do you feel like they believe that it's already kind of built into the whole thing now?
Yeah. And I mean, and as a venue, we're operating as if there is not going to be an end to this. And so what that translates into is making sure that we're using, of course, effective cleaners, but then avoiding high touch surfaces. And so we encourage our clients to have staffed buffets, that are kind of done school lunch style instead of self-serve. To not have drinks in decanters where 100 people are going to be touching the same spigot over the course of the night. So we set that up at the bar.
We design everything to flow around not having high touch areas for speakers, right? It's crazy. Yeah.
And so a bit, for us, because we kind of got into purchase the venue in the middle of all of this, we've designed everything kind of with that in mind. And so it has not come off as a hardship or a logistical difficulty at all. It just seems like best practice. So
yeah, I agree. That's great. So the last question I have for you, Margaret, is, I know you just started this event venue, but you were doing events prior. So if you had to go back 3 to 5 years, and what would you tell yourself then to plan for today and running a venue and stuff?
Invest in good note taking early on. I think as an event planner, it certainly calls on some organizational skills, and making sure, and especially in our first year of business, we have really focused on systems and making sure that our back end systems, like, how we keep track of client correspondence and all of the little bits and pieces they add and change over the 18 months we're working with them, we need to keep track of all of that. And so, and it, helps us make sure that their day is exactly how they want it, by keeping track of every single little detail. So yeah, good note taking, just be a good note taker, get better at note taking.
And invest in technology to help.
Yep. And invest in technology to help make it not an administrative burden.
It's a challenge, right? Especially when you're dealing with something over 18 months, like, oh, they sent me this thing and, oh, what was it? And, I got to imagine keeping track of that. You want it to be what they want on the day they get there, right? For sure.
Yep. Yeah. And we don't want to be pestering them for little details that we talked about 3 months ago.
Absolutely. No one wants to do that. No one wants to have to keep repeating themselves about the same thing.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Margaret, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And thank you much. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jane.
All right.